Bruh, here we go again. Caitlin is out minding her business. She out working on her golf swing at Michael Jordan's private golf course, doing her thing, not bothering nobody. Caitlin Clark is not bothering nobody. And here we have another hating WNBA player being a flat out liar and a hater, and we gotta call them out and hold their feet to the fire. This is nasty, nasty work. Nasty work, bro. I'm telling you, they can't help themselves. These girls honestly can't help themselves. I don't even know how to pronounce.
She said it with chilling confidence, claiming Caitlin Clark is definitely an important part of the revolution in women's basketball. Definitely not the only one, though. Paige Bueckers has a killer instinct. I can confirm 100% from live experience. The words dripping with a calculated disregard came from Luisa G, a Dallas Wings player and Paige Bueckers' teammate, unleashing a flat-out lie against the undisputed face of the league, Caitlin Clark, minding her own business. Working on her golf swing at Michael Jordan's private course, was suddenly blindsided by this nasty, unwarranted attack. This wasn't just an opinion, it was a deliberate attempt to downplay a generational talent and spread misinformation, igniting immediate fury among fans and demanding a swift call-out. The audacity of such a public declaration, aimed squarely at undermining Clark's unparalleled influence, set off alarm bells across the WNBA landscape, making it clear this wasn't going to be ignored.
Yo, let's rock. So, Luisa G, that plays for the Dallas Wings, Paige Bueckers' teammate, felt the need to go on Instagram and take shots at Caitlin Clark to try to uplift Paige Bueckers. You can uplift Paige Bueckers without talking about Caitlin Clark. You could do that. She wants to go play Captain Saver for Paige Bueckers based on fans' opinion, and she wants to go take shots at Caitlin Clark on Instagram. Then she goes on a podcast and also...
This controversy didn't just appear out of nowhere. It festered from a specific fan debate. Many Caitlin Clark supporters often highlight her undeniable killer instinct as a primary reason for their preference over other talented players, including Paige Bueckers. This core argument from Clark's fanbase frames her competitive drive as a unique, game-changing attribute that sets her apart and fuels her revolutionary impact on women's basketball. Luisa G, feeling the need to step in as Captain Savaho for Bueckers, directly challenged this widely held fan sentiment, asserting that Bueckers also possessed this very same killer instinct, attempting to nullify Clark's perceived edge. This seemingly minor point became the flashpoint for a much larger, more venomous confrontation, revealing deeper tensions brewing beneath the surface of the league and setting the stage for even more disrespect.
The show's host, Enoch Wolf, asked Geiselso Luisa, we call her Luisa, to choose between her teammate and the Indiana Fever star guard. The Wings center delved into her thoughts before naming Paige Bueckers as the winner of the matchup. We know that's a bold-faced lie. We know good and well that is a damn lie. Nobody is taking no damn Paige Bueckers over Caitlin Clark. And y'all make us have to say things like, yo, Paige Bueckers, yo, she can't even sell out. She got the third lowest attendance in the league. We like Paige, but when y'all do this...
The initial public jab by Luisa G first surfaced during an appearance on the Journey podcast on a recent Saturday. During the interview, the show's host Enoch Wolf and Geiselso put Luisa G in a direct high-stakes position, asking her to choose between her own teammate, Paige Bueckers, and the Indiana Fever's undeniable star guard, Caitlin Clark. Without hesitation, the Dallas Wings center delved into her thoughts before decisively naming Paige Bueckers as the winner of the hypothetical matchup. This seemingly innocent choice, made on a public platform, immediately raised eyebrows, laying the groundwork for further scrutiny and skepticism, especially considering the overwhelming public perception of Clark's unique status. The podcast served as the initial public stage for this divisive declaration, a prelude to the even bolder statements that would soon follow on social media, amplifying the brewing conflict.
To say things like, yo, Paige, yo, she can't even sell out. She got the third lowest attendance in the league. We like Paige, but when y'all do this, when y'all do that, we have to do this. We have to do this. None of us was talking about Paige. We wasn't thinking about Paige. She got to go do Unrivaled. Nobody's bothering her. Okay, the fans had a lot to say about Luisa's opinion. They swarmed the post comment section with their take on Wing Star's opinions and on Bueckers Clark matchup. One fan gave Fever Garden upper hand in the matchup. It says Caitlin Clark is revolutionizing women's basketball right now.
The idea that anyone could genuinely choose Paige Bueckers over Caitlin Clark in a head-to-head matchup was immediately branded a bold-faced lie by outraged commentators, sparking widespread disbelief. The narrative quickly shifted to point out an inconvenient truth. Bueckers' team currently holds the third lowest attendance in the entire league, a stark contrast to Clark's unparalleled draw, which sells out arenas everywhere she plays. This undeniable disparity in fan engagement and drawing power fundamentally undermines any claim that Bueckers could somehow be considered superior or even equal to Clark in terms of overall impact and popularity. Such a blatant disregard for observable facts only fueled the frustration, compelling advocates for Clark to highlight these uncomfortable realities, not out of malice, but to counter what was perceived as an outright fabrication, further solidifying the perception of Louise G's remarks as disingenuous.
Now, this is where the disrespect comes in. Now pay attention to this. This is where the disrespect starts. It's too much, and we got to call these people out. We have to. She goes and says this. This is what Luisa had to say on Instagram. It says, Caitlin Clark is definitely an important part of the revolution in women's basketball. Definitely not the only one, though. Paige Bueckers has a killer instinct. I can confirm 100% from live experience. So so here we go again. It's not only her, it's me too.
However, Louise G wasn't content to merely make her controversial remarks on a podcast. She then took to Instagram, doubling down on her initial statements with a shocking post that further amplified the disrespect. On the platform, she explicitly stated, Caitlin Clark is definitely an important part of the revolution in women's basketball. Definitely not the only one, though. Paige Bueckers has a killer instinct. I can confirm 100% from live experience. This social media declaration wasn't just a casual comment, it was a deliberate public challenge to Clark's singular status as the WNBA's biggest catalyst, directly refuting the widely accepted notion of her unique game-changing influence. The post, meant to uplift her teammate, instead came across as a petty, undermining attack, sparking a furious backlash and confirming the premeditated nature of her attempts to diminish Clark's undeniable impact, ensuring the controversy would only escalate.
Paige Bueckers has a killer instinct. I can confirm 100% from live experience. So so here we go again. It's not only her, it's me too. Get the out of here. Get out of here, Louisa. Nobody's thinking about you, bro. Why are you talking about Caitlin Clark? Who are you? Who are you? Bro, stop playing games. We talking about she did her part. No, she is the only reason. She's the only reason these girls is demanding all this money in the new CBA. She's the only reason these ratings jumped up. The ratings fell 55% when she got hurt. What are you talking about? Paige Bueckers ain't.
The specific phrasing, definitely not the only one though, struck a raw nerve, acting as a thinly veiled attempt to dilute Caitlin Clark's unprecedented revolutionary impact. Commentators vehemently argue that Clark is in fact the sole catalyst responsible for the surge in WNBA interest, new collective bargaining agreement discussions, and the sudden demand for increased player salaries. Her arrival single-handedly shifted the entire landscape of women's basketball, drawing in millions of new viewers and unprecedented media attention that simply did not exist before her collegiate stardom translated to the professional level. To suggest she's merely an important part, among others, completely ignores the seismic shift she alone orchestrated, making it clear this was a calculated effort to strip Clark of her well-deserved credit, diminishing her singular legacy for reasons that seemed increasingly petty and unfounded, fueling the outrage.
Oh, do this because you shouldn't even be talking about no Caitlin Clark. You shouldn't be talking about Caitlin Clark. Now let's look at Luisa G. You was drafted in 2020, second round pick by the Dallas Wings. Last year, you averaged 7 points and 5 rebounds. You don't get to talk about Caitlin Clark. How about that? We're going to start setting parameters, rules, and guidelines around here. We're going to start setting parameters, rules, and guidelines. Luisa G, I'm sorry. Your stats are not good enough for you to be trying to downplay who the woman that got that's about to get you more money in the league. What are you talking about? She's not.
The undeniable evidence of Caitlin Clark's singular impact is not just anecdotal, it's backed by concrete, irrefutable data that exposes the hollowness of Louise G's claims. When Clark was sidelined due to injury during her college career, WNBA ratings plummeted by an astonishing 55%. This dramatic drop wasn't a coincidence. It served as a stark empirical testament to her unique drawing power and how intrinsically tied the league's viewership was to her presence on the court. No other player, past or present, has demonstrated such a profound, measurable influence on viewership figures. This undeniable correlation directly contradicts the notion that she's merely an important part of the revolution, emphatically proving that she is indeed the only reason for this unprecedented surge in attention and financial opportunity, exposing Louise G's statement as demonstrably false and deeply disrespectful.
Your mind. Caitlin Clark is definitely an important part of the revolution in women's basketball. Definitely not the only one, though. These women done bumped their head. I'm telling you, they can't help but to hate. You know who women's biggest haters are? Other women. That's really who women's biggest haters are. And it shows every single day in the WNBA, the gift that keeps on giving. Every day it shows. This is a typical, oh, it's not only her, it's us too. It's me too.
The immediate question that arises from Louise G's statements is a simple yet pointed one. Who are you, and why are you speaking on Caitlin Clark? The sheer audacity of a player with a relatively obscure career attempting to undermine the WNBA's biggest star baffled fans and analysts alike. Clark isn't bothering anyone. She's not engaging in online spats, and she's not taking shots at other players. Her focus remains squarely on her game, her growing ventures, and continuing to elevate women's basketball through her exceptional talent and undeniable appeal. This unprovoked attack from a lesser-known player, who arguably benefits directly from the increased exposure Clark brings to the league, raises serious questions about jealousy and misplaced priorities. It points to an underlying animosity that seems to plague some corners of the WNBA, driven by an inability to acknowledge pure unadulterated superstardom without attempting to dilute it. Further fueling the outrage was the stark reality of Louise G's own WNBA career statistics, which reveal an average if not underwhelming professional journey. Drafted in 2020 in the second round by the Dallas Wings, her performance numbers hardly warrant the authority with which she attempted to critique Caitlin Clark. Last season, she averaged a modest 7 points and 5 rebounds per game, figures that place her firmly outside the conversation of elite or even consistently impactful players in the league. These stats, while respectable for a role player, simply do not provide the credibility or standing to openly challenge or diminish the unparalleled contributions of a generational talent like Clark. The discrepancy between her own on-court output and her public declarations serve to highlight the perceived hypocrisy, making her statements ring even more hollow and self-serving, further eroding any respect she might have commanded. In response to such perceived disrespect, calls quickly emerged for establishing parameters, rules, and guidelines within the WNBA regarding who earns the right to speak on Caitlin Clark. The sentiment is clear: if your own career statistics and overall impact on the league don't come close to hers, then you shouldn't be publicly attempting to downplay her revolutionary contributions. This isn't about silencing criticism, it's about drawing a line at blatant fabrication and unprovoked disparagement from individuals who arguably owe a portion of their increased visibility and future earnings to Clark's presence. The argument is that players should focus on their own game and careers instead of engaging in what appears to be petty, jealous attacks against the very person elevating the entire sport. This demand for professional decorum underscores the deep frustration over repeated attempts to diminish Clark's undeniable legacy. The core accusation against Louise G wasn't just that she was mistaken, but that she exhibited a profound lack of respect and audacity. To suggest that Clark is merely an important part while also being an average WNBA player herself, drafted 5 years ago and lucky to even still be here, struck many as incredibly tone-deaf and disrespectful. This isn't just a difference of opinion, it's an attempt to belittle the woman who is single-handedly boosting the entire league's profile, leading to higher salaries and more opportunities for all players, including including Louise G herself, the narrative shifted to question how anyone could bite the hand that feeds them, let alone disparage a figure so crucial to their own professional well-being. This perceived ingratitude fueled the anger, painting Louise G's comments not as constructive criticism, but as deeply personal and unfounded attack. This entire episode quickly devolved into a familiar narrative, the belief that women's biggest haters are other women, a sentiment repeatedly highlighted within the WNBA itself. Commentators argue that this isn't an isolated incident, but rather a recurring pattern of established female players struggling to embrace and celebrate a new, transcendent superstar, especially when that star attracts unprecedented attention. There's a palpable sense of jealousy and a desire to collectively claim credit for a revolution largely spearheaded by one individual. This gift that keeps on giving mentality, as some describe it, suggests an ingrained resistance among some athletes to acknowledge exceptionalism without attempting to dilute it or spread credit where it isn't due. This internal conflict, it's argued, ultimately harms the league by creating unnecessary division and controversy. The "it's not only her, it's us too" mentality, frequently observed in the WNBA, was on full display with Louise G's comments. This collective credit-grabbing approach attempts to diminish the singular impact of Caitlin Clark by asserting that the revolution is a group effort, thereby devaluing her unique contributions. However, the observable reality simply doesn't support this claim. None of the other players are consistently selling out home and away games like Clark, nor are their games frequently being moved to larger NBA arenas to accommodate overwhelming demand. The widespread appeal and unprecedented viewership spikes are undeniably tied to Clark's presence, not a collective effort from the entire league. This distinction is critical and serves to debunk the "we all contribute equally" narrative, highlighting the attempt to dilute Clark's solo impact with a more palatable, but ultimately false, collective triumph. The stark contrast in arena sales served as yet another undeniable counterpoint to Louise G's attempts to elevate Paige Bueckers and diminish Caitlin Clark. While Clark consistently sells out every arena, both home and away, drawing unprecedented crowds and viewership wherever she plays, other teams, including the one Bueckers plays for, struggle with attendance. The Dallas Wings, despite having Bueckers' teammate, do not consistently fill their tiny Asti arena. As one critic noted, this tangible difference in drawing power highlights the fundamental disconnect between Louise G's claims and the reality of the WNBA landscape. The ability to single-handedly fill venues and generate massive revenue is a unique hallmark of Clark's appeal, something no other player currently matches, making any assertion to the contrary easily disproven by simple observation of ticket sales and attendance figures. Throughout this entire manufactured controversy, Caitlin Clark remained conspicuously silent and focused, refusing to engage in the petty drama, while Louise G was busy taking unwarranted shots on social media and podcasts. Clark was reportedly out minding her business, literally practicing her golf swing at Michael Jordan's private course. She wasn't bothering anyone, wasn't stirring up rivalries, and certainly wasn't attempting to diminish other players' careers. Her actions consistently reflect a commitment to her craft, her endorsements, and her broader mission to elevate women's basketball, not to engage in personal attacks. This quiet professionalism stands in sharp contrast to the unprovoked, aggressive behavior from Louise G, underscoring Clark's mature approach to her burgeoning superstardom, and further highlighting the one-sided nature of the animosity she faces, making her an easy target. Caitlin Clark's influence extends far beyond the basketball court, demonstrating a broad, impactful presence that further discredits attempts to minimize her. She's not just playing basketball, she's actively recruiting for Butler, participating in high-profile ventures like Unrivaled and Project B, and consistently building her brand. She is a cultural phenomenon, expanding the reach and appeal of women's sports into new territories, attracting diverse audiences, and creating unprecedented opportunities. These significant off-court endeavors, alongside her unparalleled on-court performance, illustrate a multifaceted impact that transcends the typical athlete. To suggest her contributions are anything less than singular and revolutionary ignores the totality of her influence, which far outstrips the narrow scope of simple game statistics, solidifying her status as a true trailblazer whose reach is undeniable. The most infuriating aspect of Luisa G's behavior, beyond the initial false claims, was her deliberate decision to double down on her disrespect. Not content with making her inflammatory remarks on Instagram, she then reiterated and amplified them during her podcast appearance, essentially cementing her position and leaving no room for misinterpretation. This wasn't a fleeting moment of poor judgment, it was a sustained, calculated effort to publicly undermine Caitlin Clark's impact, repeatedly pushing the false narrative. This repeated offense signals a deeper, perhaps more ingrained animosity, suggesting a deliberate attempt to create controversy and gain attention at Clark's expense. Such persistence in spreading misinformation and disrespect further solidified the perception of her actions as malicious and unprovoked, demanding a strong rebuke from the league and its fans. The regrettable consequence of Luisa G's unprovoked attacks is that they force fans who might otherwise appreciate other players into a defensive posture, inadvertently highlighting the perceived shortcomings of stars like Paige Bueckers. When a player makes such outlandish claims about Clark, it compels her defenders to point out facts like Bueckers' team having the third lowest attendance in the league, a detail nobody was discussing before this controversy. This cycle of forced comparisons creates an environment of unnecessary rivalry and negativity, damaging the collective image of the WNBA. Instead of celebrating the diverse talents within the league, these inflammatory remarks pit players against each other, fostering resentment and diverting attention from the positive growth Clark has initiated, creating an unwelcome, hostile narrative that only serves to divide fans and players alike. The resounding sentiment from fans and commentators is clear: enough is enough. This has to stop. The constant, unprovoked attacks and attempts to downplay Caitlin Clark's monumental impact are not only tiresome but actively harmful to the growth and reputation of the WNBA. Such nasty work detracts from the incredible progress the league is making, fueled largely by Clark's magnetic presence, and instead focuses on petty rivalries and baseless negativity. There's a collective demand for players to rise above jealousy and instead embrace the unprecedented opportunities Clark is creating for everyone. This call for an end to the disrespect isn't about silencing critique, but about demanding professional conduct and acknowledging the undeniable truth of Clark's singular role in revolutionizing women's basketball, allowing the focus to return to the game itself, unburdened by unwarranted drama. Caitlin Clark stands as an unshakable force, single-handedly redefining women's basketball and shattering every ceiling previously thought impenetrable. Her impact is not merely a part of a revolution, she is the revolution, a singular phenomenon driving unprecedented viewership, revenue, and opportunity for the entire WNBA. Despite the petty, misguided attempts by players like Luisa G to undermine her, Clark continues to elevate the game, inspiring millions and proving her value through irrefutable metrics and global appeal. These constant, unprovoked attacks only serve to highlight the insecurity and jealousy that some struggle with, ultimately backfiring and solidifying Clark's position as the undisputed face of the league. Her legacy is being written in sold-out arenas and record-breaking ratings, proving that truth, unlike lies, will always prevail.